Okay, so today we're going to be talking about multiplying algebraic equations, okay? Multiplying algebraic equations or expressions, okay? Let's say expressions. On the board I have written 8, 11, and 18 and 19 as your geometry problems. You do not have to do those. Let's recap how you add. First we're going to talk about add. Well, remember that a like term is two expressions that have the same exact variable. So if I put a 2 here, this would be x squared and x. Those would not be like terms. But since they both are x and x, I can add the 3 plus the 2, the coefficient, and I get 5x, which is what I have here. Okay, notice I didn't do anything with my variable. I just left it alone. Okay, so that differs from algebraic multiplication in this. If I wrote down 3x and 2x, the rules are different. Remember, if you have a base that is the same, like 10 to the third and 10 squared, what do you do to get your answer? That's right, you leave the base as 10 and then you add the 2 and the 3 and you get 10 to the fifth. And any rule that applies to a number also applies to a variable. So we can go back here and we can say, okay, this is understood to have a 1 and this is understood to have a 1. So if that's the case, if they're both understood to have a 1 and the base is x and x, that means I can add the exponents, the 1 and the 1. So I'm going to actually get an answer of, first let's multiply the coefficient. Notice up here I added because this was an addition problem. Here the parentheses tells me to multiply, so this would be 6. X is the base, 1 plus 1 is 2. So the answer is 6x squared. I think you'll find that multiplying is a little bit easier than adding like terms because there's not as many rules, okay? So if you have negative 2x, parentheses, negative 3y. Now, remember the bases have to be the same. So let's do the coefficient. Negative 2 times negative 3 is going to be positive 6. Negative times a negative is a positive, that's understood. And then you have x to the first, y to the first. Those are not the same base, so I cannot add anything. So the only thing I can do is bring them down, and I have 6xy. Okay? Let's look at example number 1 in your problem set. You have negative 3x squared y. Okay, and then you have 2x, and you have negative 4xy. Okay. Multiply your coefficients first. So negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 2 times 4. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. So all I did was 3 times 2 times 4. So 8 times 3, 24, and there's 2 negatives, makes it positive. Then I'm going to put a 1 on the coefficients that don't have any exponents. And I'm going to add the x's. So I'm going to bring down the x and the y. And I'm going to go back and count. I have 2, 3, 4. So x to the fourth. 1, 2, y squared. Now notice, if I don't put the 1's, it doesn't look like they have several x's. Though you might say 2, 3, and 4 and get lucky, but a lot of times we forget. So it's better to go ahead and add the exponents and remember that you have to add all of them together. So this is your answer. The x to the 4 and the y squared are not like terms. They're not the same variable. So that is simplified. Okay? Look at, well, before I have you go to example 2, I'm going to say, if you see a problem like this, okay? This is no longer multiplication because of the plus in the middle, okay? Those are no longer being multiplied. So now you have to add the coefficient. So negative 3 and negative 3 is negative 6. Notice I didn't multiply. Up here I multiplied because the parentheses doesn't have a plus in between. So I would just add negative 3 and negative 3 is negative 6. And then x squared and x squared I cannot add. I have to leave the base alone because you only add them when you're multiplying. This is not multiplication. So the answer would be negative x squared. It's negative 6x squared. Okay, so please make sure you understand the difference of those two types of problems. I'm going to do the last one and then that's it. So negative 2ab a squared b, 3b to the third. Now notice there's no plus sign in between, so that means you're multiplying. So you got to follow the rules for multiplication. So I'm going to put a coefficient of 1, and I'm going to multiply my coefficients. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. I'm going to put 1s, and I'm going to add the a's and the b's. So a1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5. So it's negative 6, a to the third, b to the fifth. Notice there's no sign in between the letters. There's only a sign in the front because a negative times a positive is a negative. There's no sign in between because if you put a sign in between, you're saying it's addition instead of multiplication. All right, guys, that is all for the lesson. If you have questions, let me know.